An Air Force colonel accused of assaulting a young woman outside of a Crystal City bar this past spring has been fully acquitted by an Arlington jury. My name is Michael Waddington with the Military Law News Network. And in this episode, I'm joined by attorneys Timothy Bilecki and Noel Tipon. The big case this week that concluded on 13 November 2013 is the case of Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Krusinski. But this was not a case that was tried in military courts. Krusinski, 42, is the head of the Air Force's Sexual Assault Prevention Branch when he was arrested after the March encounter outside of a Crystal City bar. The incident was swept up in an ongoing debate over whether the military is equipped to handle sexual assaults amongst its ranks. The interesting thing is, in this case, the military was not allowed to have jurisdiction. The state court decided to proceed because it felt the military was not competent to successfully prosecute and win this case. So it's an interesting twist. Noel, what are your thoughts?
Well, with regards to the new focus on sex assault crimes in the military, Congress, state officials have been focusing on whether or not the military can adequately handle these cases and prosecute these cases. And this is a prime example of where the state took on jurisdiction over a military service member, thinking that the military was ill-equipped to handle prosecuting this case. And this just goes to show that regardless of what jurisdiction you're in, bad facts are going to result in an acquittal. Now, in this particular case, this lieutenant colonel in the Air Force was arrested in Arlington, Virginia, after he allegedly groped a woman in the parking lot. Now, the interesting thing is this guy is the head of the Air Force's Sex Assault Prevention Program. And apparently, according to the alleged victim, she had to fight off her assailant. And the Air Force was going to take jurisdiction over this case, and there was a big battle. And for those of you who have watched this program before, and I'm an avid watcher of it, there has been this ongoing debate between the military and the federal government and state jurisdictions over who's going to have jurisdiction over it. In this particular case, the state won out. They said, we're going to take jurisdiction. They took it to trial. And last Wednesday, or this past Wednesday, the jury spoke. They found him not guilty, and he was acquitted.
You know, Mike, Tim, how do you expect the military is going to proceed after this not guilty verdict? Do you think that they may proceed with their own charges or initiate some other type of action against this lieutenant colonel?
You know, Mike, I want to tag on to what Noel said. You know, in this particular case, I find it really interesting that the military, they are so gung-ho about taking cases to trial, and they're getting acquittal after acquittal after acquittal, and they're trying to figure out why are we getting so many acquittals. Then Congress is getting on them, saying the military is ill-equipped, and they're frowning on the military. So this was a great test case. It was a great bellwether to kind of show America and all the people that were watching that the state is that the state's no different than the military. The state's arguably better equipped to try cases. They have more experienced prosecutors. They have more resources to do it. And if there ever was a case where to show Congress that we can get convictions in sexual assault, you would think it's this one, especially with this individual's rank and what he does for the Air Force. The interesting thing was it was also an acquittal. And as Mr. Tipon said, the reality is bad facts are bad facts. And the real lesson here is not that the state's better equipped or the military's better equipped, is that in the military they bring garbage cases to trial, cases that the state probably wouldn't bring. The reality, Mike, I think you'll probably agree with me on this, is that if he wasn't a lieutenant colonel in the position he was, the state would never take this. Out here in Hawaii, I can say with some certainty, and Noel, you can also probably speak to this, that they're not going to take cases like this. Facts like this are not going to trial in the state court. And they're not going to trial because they result in acquittals, because they should never get tried. So this is a great example that the military needs to really raise the threshold of what they're trying. And if you try these same cases in the state court or in the federal court, it's not going to change anything. We're still going to have acquittals. And so what they need to do is better focus on what cases should go forward. Now, Mike, to answer your question on will the military charge this, I doubt it. Because what's going to happen is a military jury is probably going to acquit as well. If a military jury acquits, then how ridiculous are they going to look? Not only could the state not get a conviction, the military couldn't either, then it truly looks like the witch hunt it probably is. So my gut reaction is this is the end of this case. It's over. The lieutenant colonel was acquitted based on my understanding of the facts, and I don't know them all. The jury got it right. That's my thoughts on that, Mike.
Well, if you remember,
well, Tim,
if you remember that
go
case,
ahead, Noel.
There was a case in Texas that was, answers your goes to your point, Mike. There was a guy who was charged with killing his wife in Texas. Now, he went through 3 separate trials in Texas state court, and the Texas state court was unable to get a conviction. Now, there was never a full acquittal. It was mistrial after mistrial because the jury couldn't come to a unanimous verdict. And ultimately what happened was the Army decided to take that case to trial. They prosecuted him, and they got a conviction. So although you would hope that the military would see the writing on the wall with a full acquittal out of a state court case where you need 12 jury members to unanimously come to a verdict in order to get a not guilty, you'd hope that the military would say, look, if 12 civilians couldn't unanimously get together for a verdict, then maybe the military isn't going to do it, and they would be foolish to try and take it to a military jury. But history tells us that the military will still take garbage to a court-martial, and it is to try and save face. I mean, this guy, this lieutenant colonel, was the head of their sex assault prevention program. I don't know what kind of political ramifications that could have, but that's certainly a black eye on whoever picked him, whoever selected him to be that guy, and certainly a black eye on the Air Force saying, look, you can't even stop your own guys from doing this stuff. So my guess is that even though it's garbage, in my experience, and I've seen a lot of bad cases go to trial just because it is an allegation of sex assault. And maybe the military takes this opportunity to say, hey, look, you know what, state court? You know what, Congress? You think that the military can't do sex assault cases, can't take things to trial? Well, you got a state court in Virginia that wasn't able to do it, but guess what? We're going to try and do it. Now, the bad thing will be if they try and do it and they get a full acquittal, then they really look bad. But in my experience, I've seen the military take worse cases to trial, and that's the thing.
Noel, I want to jump in real quick here. Let's make a prediction right now in the Military Law News Network. Mike, Noel, are they going to take this to trial? What's the military going to do with this? I'm saying right now in the Military Law News Network that they're not. They're not going to touch it. But if they do, and for those of us who watch the program and may wonder if there really is this witch hunt on sexual assault, if they do take this case to trial, rest assured, and the conclusion should be drawn, and this should be completely transparent, that the witch hunt is on. I'm going to say that the Air Force isn't going to subject themselves to this and make a mockery of the system and try it again. That's my prediction. It sounds like Noel differs from me a little bit, and I'm certainly interested in hearing Mike's opinion on this.
Well, Tim, I think what's going to happen is they're probably going to give the lieutenant colonel some sort of a reprimand and some sort of administrative punishment, and then they're going to probably initiate a separation on him. I think that's one way that they'll save face. There's no way they can send him out, in the current climate, to command airmen and to serve as an officer. So I think they're going to try to get rid of him. However, I do think the Air Force got very lucky here, because if they would have fought hard to get that case and would have gotten the case, and they took it to trial and he was acquitted, then I guarantee that would have turned some Congress members to want to really revamp the system. They got a lucky break. The military justice system got a lucky break here because the state court couldn't do it. I'm sure they put their best prosecutors on this case. They tried their best to win it, and they didn't. This is now an example where the Air Force can say, if they're smart, the Air Force leadership, hey, you guys couldn't do it any better, so get off our backs. As a matter of fact, we probably could have gotten an acquittal, but you know what? We believe in although it really doesn't apply, but fairness is gonna make us decide to not court-martial him, and we're gonna just give him administrative separation and try to get rid of him that way. So I don't think they're gonna court-martial him. I'd love to see, if they do, I'd love to see them get a full acquittal in that case. That's
Noel,
my
your
prediction.
thoughts. Noel, your thoughts.
You know what? All those things we're aspiring and we're hoping that the Air Force and the military is smart about their military justice. I'm just too cynical. I've been doing this for long enough and been around enough courts-martial, enough administrative hearings. My prediction is they're going to take him to court-martial. They're going to say, you know what? We're going to put our best guys, our best special victims prosecutors on this thing, and we're going to show you, state court, we're going to show you, Congress, that we can get a conviction. Because someone out there, some Air Force general, has got egg on their face for putting this guy in the position that he's in. Because there is acquittal, that's fine. But everyone's saying, well, it's not that he's innocent, it's that they couldn't get a conviction out of him. I mean, if you look at the booking photo of this guy, he got into a fist fight with this girl. I mean, he's got a black eye, a cut under his eye. There's no way that this lieutenant colonel is of any use to the military anymore. And I'm just too cynical to believe that they're just going to let this one go and sweep it under the rug. I don't think they're going to take it to an administrative hearing. I don't think they're just going to quietly let him get out of the Air Force. My prediction is, I know it's a bold prediction, and I hope that they're smart about it. I hope the military is smart about it, and they don't do it, because if they get an acquittal, it's going to be it's going to be egg on their face. My prediction here today is that they're going to send this guy to court-martial.
Bold predictions by Noel Tipon. Noel Tipon is saying.
Noel
Tipon is saying this is going to a court-martial. I'm saying it's over, and Mike Waddington thinks it's going to be a reprimand and administrative separation. It's going to be real interesting to see how this plays out, to see what happens here.
Tim.
Mike, go ahead.
Let me cut you off there, Tim. I want to state this for the record, and then I'm sorry to cut you off, man, but if they don't do an administrative separation, then I think they're going to go the route that Noel's suggesting, but they're going to charge him with wrongful sexual contact, and that's probably it. That has the lowest standard of proof. It's a very low sexual assault charge, and it's pretty easy to prove in a case like this. So I'm siding more with Noel. I'm kind of going down the middle, but I'm siding more with Noel. Sorry, buddy. You know what? I think that they can even do better than that. I think that they can charge him with something as petty as conduct unbecoming. They can knock out elements from a sex assault crime, and they can get him out just by conduct unbecoming. And then this way, they can even tell Congress, look, we got a conviction, not knowing that what they did was they charged him with a watered down charge of conduct unbecoming.
Mike, I stand alone, and I remain with my position. Viewers, stay tuned to see how this plays out. We will definitely do a follow-up, and we're certainly interested on your take on it. So if you've got an opinion on it, email us, write in, or call in. We're interested to see your opinion on it as well. And on that note, on having some dissension amongst the ranks here at the Military Law News Network, we leave you on this particular episode. Stay tuned for future episodes on new and upcoming issues on military law, as well as the continued war on sexual assault. So from the Military Law News Network, bid you aloha here from Honolulu.